Today we'll be discussing lactogenesis, which is the production of breast milk. Okay, so I want to make this video as short and simple as possible, and yeah, let's get into it. So here I have an image of our brain. More specifically, we need to focus on the pituitary. We have an image of our breast, and we have a baby. This is baby Venus, okay, which is suckling on her mother's breast. Okay, so to understand production of breast milk, we need to first understand the prolactin pituitary axis and all that good stuff. Okay, so here we have the prolactin axis along with the estrogen, progesterone, FSH, LH axis. So now we need to focus on just prolactin. Okay, so prolactin is produced by the anterior pituitary right here. So we're going to focus on prolactin first. Prolactin is produced by the anterior pituitary, and we know that prolactin causes breast milk production or lactogenesis. Okay, so it causes lactogenesis. Okay, prolactin is inhibited by dopamine, which is produced by the arcuate nucleus in the pituitary gland. Okay, and prolactin is also inhibited by progesterone. So when we're pregnant, high levels of progesterone will inhibit prolactin because we're not ready to make breast milk yet. Okay, so however, estrogen stimulates prolactin, and therefore estrogen stimulates lactogenesis or breast milk production. We also need to understand that prolactin itself, so we've understood that the things that inhibit and stimulate prolactin, dopamine and progesterone inhibit prolactin, and estrogen stimulates prolactin. But prolactin itself inhibits gonadotropin releasing hormone. So prolactin inhibits gonadotropin releasing hormone, and gonadotropin releasing hormone is responsible for allowing the anterior pituitary to secrete FSH and LH, and we know that FSH and LH will stimulate the ovary or the follicle to secrete estrogen and progesterone. We discussed that in our ovulation video, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, please check out my ovulation video, which I'm going to link somewhere up there. Okay, so this is why when a woman is breastfeeding, she doesn't see her period or she has amenorrhea. It's because of this prolactin right here. Or anyone who has hyperprolactinemia, if they have a pituitary tumor, they have amenorrhea. Okay, so here we have the same image with the baby again, and the breast and the pituitary gland. Okay, so after parturition or after the mother has given birth, we know that there is a rapid decline in progesterone, and we saw that in our hormones of pregnancy video. And again, if you haven't seen that video, you should probably check it out. I'm gonna put a link of it up there. So I'm just gonna show you the same image I had in the hormones of pregnancy video, and this is the diagram I had. Right here we could see that progesterone is the dark blue one, estrogen is the red one, and as soon as the mother gives birth or parturition, there's a rapid decline in progesterone and estrogen. And as we saw, that progesterone inhibits prolactin, so the rapid decrease in progesterone. The rapid decrease in progesterone increases prolactin. Also, there are mechanoreceptors at the tip of the nipple. So we have mechanoreceptors at the tip of the nipple that detect pressure changes. So when the baby squeezes on the nipple, it stimulates the brain pathway to release prolactin. So if we have stimulation right here, it will stimulate the anterior pituitary to produce prolactin, and prolactin stimulates the epithelial cells of the alveolus in their breast tissue. Okay, so now we will be discussing lactogenesis and what is or how is breast milk produced. Okay, so here we have it. We saw that prolactin. We know that prolactin is responsible for lactogenesis or breast milk production, and we said that prolactin can increase due to the rapid decrease in progesterone and also due to the mechanical receptors at the tip of the nipple that stimulates prolactin release by the brain pathways. Okay, so here we have it. We have the epithelial cells of the alveolus in the breast, and then we have prolactin receptors. So this is the prolactin receptor. Prolactin receptor. Okay, and prolactin comes and prolactin binds to it. Okay, now this receptor is a non-tyrosine kinase receptor. Okay, so now prolactin will induce, so let's just switch to our zoomed in version of our epithelial cell. Now prolactin will induce gene expression in milk protein synthesis. So once gene expression is available, we have milk proteins being synthesized in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So the proteins include galactosyl transferase, and galactosyl transferase is the enzyme responsible for combining one galactose and one glucose to make lactose. So if I were to draw this out for you, we will have this would be our glucose, and here we would have our galactose. Okay, so the enzyme that forms this lactose, so one glucose and one lactose combined is called lactose, and the enzyme that does that is lactosyl transferase, and this is what prolactin induces. Prolactin also makes two types of proteins. So it makes one carbohydrate, lactose, by synthesizing lactosyl transferase, and it makes milk proteins, which are divided into whey proteins and casein proteins. Casein proteins are responsible for giving out or storing or giving the baby the calcium that it needs, and whey proteins are responsible for things like immunity, protection against bacteria in the mother's milk. So if I were to draw a casein protein out for you, okay, so I'm just going to go to the next slide and we'll see it clearly. Okay, so here we have it. So the milk, so this is the components of milk. Milk is made up of 44% of lactose and 26% of fat and 24% of milk proteins. Now these milk proteins can further be broken down into casein proteins and whey proteins. Now examples of whey proteins include lactoferrin, and we know that lactoferrin is responsible for trapping up iron and killing bacteria, because if we trap the iron, the bacteria won't get the iron, so the bacteria will die. Alpha globulin, so we know that's an immunoglobulin, lactoalbumin. So basically, whey proteins are responsible for protection, okay, and casein proteins are responsible for transporting calcium. Okay, so casein protein would look something like that. Now, casein proteins come together to form little micelles called submicelles. So this would be a submicelle. Okay, and in the submicelle we have our calcium and our phosphorus. Okay, so you know how bile emulsifies fat and breaks down fat into tiny globules? This is what the casein proteins do. The casein proteins form submicelles that trap calcium and phosphorus, and in these submicelles, the casein proteins surround multiple submicelles to form one giant micelle. Okay, so that's the function of casein proteins. So let's just go back to our previous slide. So here we have it. We said that prolactin is responsible for producing a carbohydrate, which is lactose, by increasing this protein right here, by increasing galactosyl transferase. It also produces two types of proteins, casein proteins, which are responsible for forming globules that give calcium and phosphorus to the baby, and whey proteins, which are for protection, such as immunoglobulins, lactoferrins, and stuff like that. So these two, lactoalbumin and lactoglobulin, are two examples of whey proteins. And here we have casein proteins, which is the other type of protein found in breast milk. Okay, so this lactose. So we've talked about the two components in milk: the lactose and the proteins. And this lactose is very osmotically active. So since lactose is very osmotically active, it will drag water in. So this was our water, H2O, outside the cell, and we have lactose inside this epithelial cell. This lactose would drag water inside the cell, increasing the volume, so the water will now be inside the cell. This is why breast milk is made up of 80% water and 13% actual milk. Okay, so the milk, like I said, is made up of 26% fat, 24% milk proteins, which are the two types of proteins we discussed, and 44% lactose, which is the carbohydrate that the baby actually gets its energy from. Okay, so now that we've talked about lactogenesis and how it is produced, now we need to talk about how is this milk let out by the baby. Okay, so on our next slide we will see that. Okay, we said that for lactogenesis, our nipple had mechanoreceptors that were stimulated due to suckling from the baby, and it caused prolactin to be released. And this prolactin stimulates our epithelial cells to change into lactocytes, which produce milk. Also, suckling also stimulates oxytocin to be released from the posterior pituitary, and oxytocin causes myoepithelial cell contraction. So if we were to go back, these cells right here are myoepithelial cells. So also, these are myoepithelial cells, and during suckling, we have stimulation of prolactin release, and also these myoepithelial cells are contracted, squeezing. Sorry about that. Squeezing the milk that was produced into the lumen right here, squeezing it into the duct. Okay, and so this is how the baby receives milk from her mother's lobules and alveoli and goes straight down her esophagus. Now this has been lactogenesis, and I hope that was helpful. If it was really helpful, don't forget to like, and if you've watched my previous videos and you've loved them, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.